Greetings, I'm Komang Elista from Indonesia, and today I'm going to explain about my research in human resources field. This research is about identify the effect of grit in job performance of Interaxe.ID members. So the first chapter is introduction. Along the way of digital era, AR business is started to gain fame in 2020. It has 14.7 billion market share and projected to gain more in 2026. The reason I do this research is because based on the data, HR management like founder motivation and personality of the employee is really important to determine success in business. One personality trait that has been widely thought as an important predictor of success and performance is grit. Grit is a personality that includes perseverance and patience in achieving long-term goals of which someone will consistently fight for. The occurrence of grit causes some consequences, and one of them is performance improvement. The phenomenon of the problem occurs on Interaxe.ID working environment. Interaxe is an agency that provides virtual try-on for business fashion in Indonesia, and we're actually planning to launch in early 2022. However, after evaluating the business OKR regarding the launching plan, we identified that most of the OKR has not been achieved. As we can see, the objective of getting sales in 2022 was not achieved at all. It can be said that Interaxe.ID is still lag in job performance, so I tried to analyze the factors that might cause the low performance itself. During the progress, I identified some behavior in the team. For example, when the team face problem in contacting clients, they are accepting the situation rather than trying to find other solution and striving to get clients. Thus, from all of the observation that I have done in my team and the grit theory, it raised the suspicion that might be a relationship between grit and performance. So it was found that grit does affect performance. When a person's grit level is low, their performance is also low, vice versa. Thus, in this research, I want to analyze whether this theory can be implemented into Interaxe.ID and how grit members can cause low performance. This research intention are to analyze what are the grit levels of each members at Interaxe, how grit antecedents affect grit of each members at Interaxe, how grit affecting job performance of Interaxe. From the question, we got the objective. The output of this research are to analyze the grit levels of each members at Interaxe, analyze how grit antecedents affect grit of each members at Interaxe, and to analyze how grit affecting job performance of Interaxe. The scope of this research is the business members of Interaxe who are also entrepreneurship students batch 2022 at Bandung Institute of Technology or ITB. Second chapter is business and technology description. Let's start with company profile of Interaxe as an AR agency in Indonesia that provides virtual try-on for customers. The team has 4 members who rolled in CEO, CPO, CMO, and COO. These are the SWOT analysis of Interaxe. And this is one of our portfolio. We offer 2 types of service, which are renting AR technology and creating AR. In technology rental, customers can access their accessories, technology, and a limited time on their accounts. Meanwhile, for the second offering, clients can have the technology with unlimited access. The virtual try-on technology starts from 500 for the rental and 1 million rupiah for unlimited access. Our technology readiness level is 9 out of 9 because we have tested and validated the product through 10 people. The first theory that the researcher used is theory of grit that become more famous by Angela Duckworth. Grit is the ability to persevere and be passionate about attaining long-term goals. That are several variables that predict grit, called antecedents. Grit was built through purpose, hardiness, conscientiousness, self-regulation, and self-efficacy. The higher levels of antecedents lead to higher levels of grit, and then in some theory, it also mentioned that grit affected job performance. And the theory of job performance, contextual performance might have relation with grit. Basically, contextual means the psychological matters that happen during the job, like being proactive and etc. This is the conceptual framework that been used in this research. Each of antecedents has effect on grit, and grit affect job performance. Thus, from this chapter, the researcher conduct the research proposition. Is the grid owned by Interaxe.ID members in line with the team's performance, and how do the antecedents affect the existing of grid? The researcher identified the problem by using grid short scale by Angela Duckworth, and the method is using in-depth interview by asking several questions individually to each members and then validate the answer through FGD. The participants is Interaxe.ID members that chosen using purposive sampling techniques. After collecting the data, I use thematic code analysis to analyze the main cause that affect grid members. I use semi-structured in generating in-depth interview and FGD questions. I identify the variable of grid and antecedents, find each of their subscales, and determine the questions through the meaning of the subscales. So we come to the data analysis. The grid scale is conducted by 10 questions, and the scale of the score is 1, aka not at all gritty, to 5, which is extremely gritty. Based on the grid scale created by Angela Duckworth, the member with initial JJ has grid score 3.5 out of 5, which indicates that she is in average level of grit. The member with initial LK has grid score 3.9 out of 5, which indicates that she is also in average level of grit. And the last member with initial SS has grid score in 2.29, which indicates somewhat gritty. So after analyze their grid score, the researcher do the open code based on the interview and in-depth interview. So from the open code, there are a lot of points that have been highlighted. For example, purpose, clarity of purpose of exploration, plan, altruistic of purpose, commitment, control, positive mindset toward changes, industriousness, self-control, orderliness, self-regulation, and self-efficacy. And from all of those points, it is really important to make it more narrow. So the point got simplified into purpose, hardiness, conscientiousness, self-regulation, and self-efficacy, which are the antecedents of grit. So from the axial codes of purpose variable, the researchers found points related to future planning, goals, career, academic activities, personal motivation, and etc. And then in selective codes, from the axial, the researchers find out that experience and motivation affects a member's vision on purpose variable. And then for the variable of hardiness, in axial codes, the researcher found theme in regarding to responsible, be persevere, strong belief in life, positive mindset, able to adapt or unable to adapt, indecisiveness and decision making, willpower, team cohesiveness, and from those axial codes, the researcher simplified it and find the selective codes, which is strong determination and team dependence. And this is the variable of conscientiousness. From the axial codes, the researcher found industriousness, orderliness, high self-control, spontaneous, and high self-discipline. And from those points, it can be concluded that reliable and spontaneous become the theme of conscientiousness variable. And then for the self-regulation, lack of commitment, lack of focus, effort in managing focus, from those point of actual codes, the researcher conclude that procrastinating and irresponsible towards work affect effort in managing focus of Interaxe, which become the main themes of self-regulation variable. And then for the self-efficacy, there are points like pessimistic, dependence on external factors, lack of passion in business. From all those codes, the researcher find out that uncertain situation and lack of passion affect the self-confidence of the members. And we move on to focus group discussion, or FGD. For the variable purpose, we can conclude that part of members' experience in developing their skills to pursue their goals in life have impact on their job performance of Interaxe. And for the hardiness variable, the performance of Interaxe.ID members affected by the behavior which are still dependent on the team support and control in solving a problem in Interaxe. And then for variable conscientiousness, it can be concluded that the performance of Interaxe is affected by members' inability to be disciplined in managing their own schedule to do the job in Interaxe, and also their feeling for being responsible to other members. And then for the self-regulation variable, the performance of Interaxe is affected by their low ability in maintaining focus while working. And the last variable is self-efficacy. It can be concluded that the performance of Interaxe.ID member is affected by lack of their passion in business, which leads to lack of confidence in making Interaxe.ID success. So this is the conclusion from coding and FGD result. We can see that self-regulation is the only variable that have significantly affect job performance of the members. The researcher used the OKR of each members to measure the job performance of each member. Based on the OKR of 7th semester, the researcher validated that whether that the members who are in somewhat gritty levels, scales 3 out of 5, tend to achieve more than 50% of their OKR. Meanwhile, for the members who are in level not much gritty, scale 2 out of 5, only achieve 23% of the OKR. So there is a correlation between grit scale on OKR percentage. And according to data, it can be concluded that the grit level of each members affected their progress in doing their job in Interaxe. The performance decreased since there are no members who have more than 4 score of grit. Thus, the researchers want to find out the root factors that caused by the grit members. After collecting data through in-depth interview and focus group discussion based on the open coding, self-regulation is the variable that got all negative open coding in the members' personal life and their job in Interaxe, which means that all the members still lack self-regulation. So based on the selective coding, self-regulation is caused by procrastinating behavior and being irresponsible towards work. It can be concluded that procrastinating and being irresponsible become the most influential factors in determining the grit levels of the members, which affect their bad performance in Interaxe. So, for the recommendations, for the employee can improve their job performance by knowing their grit score and their grit levels. And for startups, it's really important to educate their employee in improving their grit levels, because it's really affected their job performance. And also for the further research, this research is only have scope in ITB areas, so it's really important for expanding the area and sample. That's all for me. Thank you.